Welcome back to the EcoFarm Aotearoa podcast. I'm Stephen Brunton, sitting in with the master, Ewan Campbell. Today we've got another really cool episode for you about minerals for the genetic code. However, I just want to point out and labour this point before we get started. We're making a real commitment for farmers to make sure they have an audio version of this so they can get this on their Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iHeartRadio, all the normal places you get your audio podcasts so you can listen to this out on the tractor. That's my rant about audio so that you've got that as a convenience. Ewan, we're talking about minerals in the genetic code. Let's take it from there.
I first came across this material when Charles Walters, who was the editor of Acres USA, did an article on Richard Olry in Minerals for the Genetic Code. And I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. And shortly after that, he then created this lovely book with Richard Olry, there you see, and you can probably see how beaten this up is. It is a bit of a Bible in regards to issues that come about through day-to-day life, and you'll see that as we further go through this podcast. But it really started to make sense to me how the minerals were all in a format that they bound and ran in a harmonic to create a DNA strand. There's no accidents. It's just like because of how things work with electromagnetics and magnetics and the energy patterns, things were bound together in a particular way and they formed into a beautiful spiral called DNA. Nobody knew. I mean, like, what was DNA made of? So it's made up of all these proteins that go with this other stuff that stick it all together. But all these minerals have to be in this format to lay a decent DNA strand out.
Yeah, how do they connect to the DNA?
Well, we'll go through that and you'll see that through those charts and the process that Walter Russell did.
Okay.
And this is a problem that when we start looking at things that are 3, 4, 5 dimensional on a flat screen.
Yeah. Yeah, that's actually really interesting because we think, I'm just going to flick forward to it, but we think of the periodic table in this way, right? And I'll just bring it up on the screen there. Yeah. And that's a kind of a two-dimensional look at.
No, it's not even two. It's one as far as I'm concerned. It's just flat.
Yeah, it's just flat, totally. Yeah. Whereas when you think about his work, and gosh, this book is amazing, how much you've used it. When I think about that, it's it's like your Bible.
Well, it's a reference book.
Yeah.
It's a brilliant reference book. Time, place, minerals, what's that do, reflection of what it does in our body. Yeah. And reproduction and that. And we'll go through that a little bit further as we go on. So I looked at this and go, now that answers a lot of questions.
Yeah.
Now, and what really, really I liked about the whole process was that Olry, who's a chiropractor, who had actually dug out all the research from PubMed, which is all the research journals that they publish.
Yeah, that's no joke. I've got a Bachelor in Health Studies, and PubMed is where it's at for all the science.
Yeah, and this is the part where I'm trying to, as we go through this stuff, is like I want to show you the links that there is a methodical, logical process and how we're all put together. But because there's no money in it, in a logical, healthy perspective, because healthy people don't spend any money. It's like, I use them.
That's right.
They don't see that principle of how to build this process into a sensible outcome. Because basically, I'll go step back a bit. When you're a farmer, you're the one that buys wholesale. No, you don't. You buy retail and sell wholesale. It's not the other way around.
Right.
Okay. And you're being sold to all the time, because like you've got a large income and all that sort of stuff. But we don't put into context that they say the market wants this stuff. Yeah, the market doesn't know what it wants because you haven't produced it yet. And so it's not until we actually really understand that what we produce and how we produce it and the quality of it and the reason for producing it this way, then you got something to market.
Okay.
And so when you're building this stuff up and you've got this precision and environmental and health and eating quality and everything, you're actually building it for a reason because you're going to sell it.
Yeah.
So any manufacturer in the world makes it so they can sell it. Okay, so we're just a biological manufacturer.
Oh, I like that.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. And so hence your manufacturing inputs are actually the minerals. That's your factory.
That's my little factory.
If I can think of it as that, for the analogy.
Well, in the last podcast, I talk about my little Swiss watch.
That's right.
It's got all these sprockets and all these things go round and round, and the incy-bincy, teeny-weeny one right in the middle, if it's not working, the whole thing stops.
Yeah.
And so when we look at it on that mechanism, this sledgehammer approach, you need this. And going, why? Because you're selling it? Or is it going to help me produce something that there's somebody else on the other side of the world wants to pay me huge sums of money, or just down the road?
Yeah, and by the way, just to be clear, someone on the other side of the world who wants to pay you huge sums of money for that beautiful cut of premium beef or whatever that output is. It's a real world example. It's not just kind of talk.
No, I've been there and seen the money on offer. And it's like, we've got to get real about this thing. It's like we go, oh, this New Zealand, it's clean green, and going, oh, whatever. God, don't fucking drivel. Like coming into Pyro the other day, I just got to go past the last few days. Someone sprayed out their paddock and then they've cut silage and made silage out of it. It's the most daft thing on the planet. It's like they've just put an antibiotic in the land that kills the biology and they're going to feed it to the cows. Yeah, really good idea. So straight away, it's a no-brainer.
Just remind people why it's an antibiotic.
Well, Roundup is an antibiotic. It's just
registered as
a registered antibiotic. And like, if you're going to kill your biology, well, then you realise that you're going to give away all this nutrient manufacturing and process that starts this whole scenario from one end to the other. And then you're going to have to replace it with something else. And it's going to cost you. That's all there is to it. And I'm sure the customers, honestly, if you put that on your labelling, how many people would buy that product?
Oh, geez, I don't know. That'd be a little bit too honest, I suspect.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's stop this dishonesty about this and let's start getting to the bottom of this process. You don't go and buy a brand new motor vehicle from somebody that's dishonest that you get 3 miles down the road, the warranty's gone and the motor blew up. Oh, well, we just have to sell you another engine. Oh, this one's better than the last one before. Why? Oh, it's just because we can sell it to you. Like this is daft. We just bonkers. So consumers, markets and everything, they want products, right? Mm-hmm. But they can't want it if you haven't delivered it. Now, I remember having this long discussion with you about marketing about the iPhone.
Oh, yeah,
when
that's
it
right.
first started. Said right at the very beginning, they were selling a concept about 3 different things into one, wasn't it? And
yeah, if I remember, he says, it's a phone, it's an internet communicator, and it's a music player. And he kept repeating those 3 things. And he goes, do you get it? Do you get it? It's the iPhone. Because people didn't have an understanding of the concept. And nor would they have even necessarily wanted it if he hadn't just built it and got it out there to them before they knew what they would want. Because he could see it. He had the vision for it. Sorry, I kind of a bit of a fan of Steve Jobs.
No, beautiful, because this is exactly what I'm talking about. Like, I only went out into the market because we actually started to realize that we had a really good product.
Yeah.
We'd built it. They didn't know they wanted it because they didn't know it existed.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
And so when we went into, these restaurants in London and these French chef and the BBC food guys, they didn't know this existed.
At that level.
Yeah,
there's levels to things, right? And if you just get used to low-grade stuff and then the best you can do out of that is, season, saute it and fill it up with herbs for consumption, but you don't know at its core level it can get that much better.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that reflects in kiwi fruit and avocados and anything that you grow. And that's why it's nice to eat your own food, because if you've done it well, it's bloody lovely. Those big orange eggs that we get from our chickens and things like that. It's just a change. And this is the basis of where we're going to, is that there's a reason for everything. Trying to work out the reason for everything's pretty hard, but you can actually get some basics in this process and realize we're here to produce food. Well, that's the only job I know of a farmer: food, fiber, whatever, like what you produce off the farm. Let's do the best job we possibly can at the least possible cost for the best possible outcome instead of being the target. If you do it well, there isn't any issues with compliance and all this other stuff because there's nothing to comply with because the farm's beautiful, clean, the water comes off clean, the products are all fantastic, you haven't used any chemicals, and you're making money. Dear me, where are we going on holiday again this year?
Up on screen, we've got the Minerals for the Genetic Code, right? That book. And I just want to say before we move on, is there anything else about Charles Walter or Richard Olry?
I just put a plug in. Charles Walters, I call him as the epitome of the original regenerative organic farmer and a great researcher. Man, he was amazing about who he pulled together and wrote about that. And he used to find these people, different people. They'd turn up and he'd write about them. And I'd love getting Acres USA back in the day when Charles Walters was the editor.
Oh, was he like one of the staff writers?
He was the editor and he made it. He was the originating man that started Acres USA.
Amazing.
And he was amazing, yeah. And what he brought forward, and he had a strong political presence. He understood the craziness of what was going on in agriculture. And he was trying to draw people back to this basis of, where our food comes. And he started with, the likes of William Albrecht, and he brought in all sorts of people that were very good at what they did, gave him a platform. And this is what, the books they're still there are incredible.
Speaking of which, of giving a platform, who's got the book? Because you were going to plug
AcresUSA.com.
And you can get this now.
You can get that now.
Yeah, it's a good part of understanding everything that's going. Sorry, carry on.
So anyway, I've got to give credit to Charles Walters. He wrote it. Richard Olry had done the work, and he'd based a lot of the work on Walter Russell's periodic chart. Absolutely brilliant, man. A lot of the stuff, I don't know how they came up with it, but it all makes sense. So let's just move on with that, and let's show the platform of how this works, or how I see it working anyway.
And it's not the periodic table we need to look at this point, is it? Because, as we said before, it's a two-dimensional understanding of what we're about to hit.
Absolutely.
I mean, take a look at that for just a second.
Yeah.
Because what we're about to see is a far greater understanding, because Walter Russell came up with the 10 octaves concept.
Okay, so we'll go back to the periodic table.
Okay.
And we just go, look at the simplicity of this. Each number is just telling you how many protons are in the middle of the element. That's all it is in the nucleus.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And so basically you're just going, oh, well, that's how it works. Number of protons, blah, 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 blah. That's it. Hurrah.
Yeah, it's quite singular in its dimension of understanding of it.
Yes.
Okay. I'll go to the next slide then, because then we see this concept.
Yeah. And this is quite a different sort of concept. The way that Walter Russell put this together is that he's looking at the element is growing in size, because every time there's another proton, there's another or more than one neutron goes in, and then there's the electron. So then we get a slightly larger element, and then it goes through these positive and negative sides.
Let's not forget, for the audio listener, we've moved on from the periodic table to what we see on the left-hand side of the screen is a strand of DNA, because it's going to relate back to that.
Absolutely.
That's not there by accident. But also, we have, on the right-hand side, what's this called? Walter Russell's
periodic chart.
What's the 10 octaves thing about?
So what this was about, how each time it goes through the curvature or the process of the +1, +2, +3, +4, -4, then down through minus. And so each octave was each time the minerals went up to that, came back down again, and then on to the next octave, which was the next.
So interesting to use the phrase octave.
Yeah, well, it's
because it's sort of musical.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it is. It's harmonic. It's musical. It's weight. It's distribution. It's connection by electrical charge. It's like it just.
Yeah, this is where we go into the other dimensions.
Yeah,
yeah. This is what takes it from sort of 2-dimensional out to, it's almost like 5-dimensional.
Yeah, well, you got to, if you look down through it, you would just see these spirals growing, because what's happening is the minerals are growing, and therefore the curvature changes. And guess what? It mimics.
Well, this is where I think the DNA is.
Yeah, but if you go to the beach.
Oh, okay.
And look at some of those spiral shells, look down on the top of them. They're beautiful, and they all grow in this curvature of growing out of the octaves.
So we're seeing it in nature.
Yes.
Expressed in a similar way, which we're also seeing expressed in the curvature of the DNA.
Yes.
Am I linking this too soon?
No, that's right. You're bang on.
Okay. So it's what you might call fractal in nature.
Yep.
Yeah.
And so everything's, has a perfection because it has one charge and then the next one has another charge and then it goes from a positive charge to a negative charge.
Yeah.
And then it goes through this octave and it expresses itself in the spiraling process of little atom donuts together to create a DNA spiral.
Okay, so down the side here, just pointing at the screen, we've got, and this will be hard for people seeing it on their cell phone if they stop to look.
A bit difficult.
Hopefully we can explain it for people listening only. In the chart, in the 10 octaves periodic chart, you see things like up here in the, what is that, the second octave? Lithium, beryllium, boron, carbon, nitrogen, oxygen, fluorine. Great. Well, some of those are actually quite recognizable for the farm.
Yes.
Down in another octave, potassium, calcium, scandium, titanium, vanadium, chromium, manganese, iron, cobalt, and it goes on, right, down in those different sections. So what's relevant about that and how it directly connects across to DNA? Or give me an example that's pulling me into farming health.
We'll see that in the next one where we start looking at what happens with the relationship between the spinal chart, the DNA, and what's happening. And this is...
Okay, this is the next one up on the screen.
This is the next one up.
Better explain it for the audio listeners. We've got the chart now on the left-hand side compared against good old-fashioned Gray's Anatomy, which has been around and never been wrong. It's been updated over a century or two.
Yeah.
And to this day, what we see in Gray's Anatomy in terms of in this example is looking closely at the spinal column, the spine from the atlas down to the coccyx, and how the different segments from C1 down to L5, sacrum coccyx, relate to different aspects and innervation into the body. So T4, for example, gallbladder, the common duct, T5, liver, solar plexus, circulation, and how each spinal segment and innervation, meaning nerve section, goes out to affect different parts, organs, and systems. That's for the audio listener, just to understand what we're comparing against there on the left, because you'll see the similarity of the 10 octaves from Walter Russell's periodic chart on the left-hand side, and you can start drawing an integration between the two, right?
Absolutely. And this is where, like, if you're really serious about this book is, like, it's brilliant. It is, and for me, it was such an eye-opener because it was telling us something about how we functioned every day, because the reality was the way that it's expressed through what Ulrich had done is, and put together with Walter Russell's chart and PubMed information and what we could see in Gray's Anatomy, is that the spine is actually the largest reflection of the DNA in our body.
Fractal again?
Yes.
Because you look at the spine and you look at the DNA and you go, oh, there's a similarity to this.
Totally.
Yeah.
And so what they've done and put together, and start looking at these subatomic particles down through the minerals and part of the body, of each reflected to the disc or to the vertebrae, the particular mineral, the regeneration time, the protein time. And in this chart, in Gray's Anatomy, you're looking at the reflection of how the body response. Oh, you got disease, or you got kidney problems, or you got this, and go, well, is it the mineral, or is it, and there's all sorts of things that, we were talking before, like, oh, I've got liver problems, and going, well, is that shitty liver? Is that, or is it a pH balance, or is it what? And so you can actually look at these things and they...
What is that? What do you mean by shitty liver, actually?
Well, it's a...
You don't just mean I got a shitty liver. It's a term. That's actually sort of a...
Yeah, it's
a slight slang term on the meaning of an actual
because somebody's actually...
Yeah.
He's angry. It's like he's pissed off with people, okay?
Oh, you're talking about how you relate that into behavioral issues as a result of health concerns.
Absolutely.
And there's a huge... modern psychology's acknowledging that connection. But for a long time, the mind-body people in the woo-woo world have been like, there's a connection there. I mean, that's why when a person's angry, we call them livid.
Yep.
Funny how if you resolve liver issues, people aren't as angry, just a thought.
Well, this is where we see it on the farm.
Right.
Okay, so when we look at all of these issues and go, when it's not right on the farm, you go, what's that caused by? Mineral deficiency, frequency, whatever else. It's like all of these are bazillion things that you can play together. And over time, you actually start to sift and sort and go, oh, I can see where that's connected to that. I can see where this is connected to that. Why is that animal not doing this? And so you start to see expressions in the animals and in ourselves. And you can go...
It's a good phrase for it.
What's the book says, blah, blah, blah. Now I know what's going on with that.
Right. Right.
and so there's another level to this again, which hooks straight onto the Chinese I Ching.
Ah, interesting.
And that's a behavioral patterns, what we've set in our past, our futures, there's part of that inside of this book here too. And there's another book I really enjoy, Richard Rudd. Oh God, I can't remember the name of it now, but it's another one that's one more about expression of our genes and who we are and what we're doing out in this world. So these things are not a fiction. These are well-researched people that have done a lot of work over a long period of time. And what we're doing is connecting them back up and seeing the reality of them in our own day-to-day lives and in our farming expression. And so I've go back again and again and again. You have to set the environment for the expression to be exposed.
Okay.
And what we don't do is that we hit things with a sledgehammer.
When really we should be looking at it more like an orchestra.
Yes.
With different players playing different parts.
Yes.
That you've got to get right. And the thing for me that's sort of going, of course you'd look at it like an orchestra. His chart's called the 10 Octaves periodic chart. Of course. Yeah, that gives a really nice subtle understanding of things. I think people need a subtler understanding, which actually means more detailed.
Yeah, and I mean, it just takes away from this craziness. We're going to genetically modify something and go, really? Basically, I damn well know that if you give it the right opportunity, just like the cyanobacteria, it'll restrand it.
Well, let's bring that into a real-world example. Things are being genetically modified for farts.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe we could actually just have a better understanding
of
what gets an animal to a dysfunctional place, even if that's the issue. I don't know.
No, you're right, because basically they're trying to take away nature to create a financial outcome. Like they're saying, we can reduce the methane by cows by so many % by changing the DNA or changing the biology, and going, okay, so why don't we just give them a little bit of nickel, which allows the urease enzyme to convert nitrate to ammonia, the fart's gone away, and we have healthy cows. So
yeah, but then the science industry wouldn't get to mess with all of your cows and change its genes.
Good, eh?
Yeah. You mean you could just resolve this with nickel?
Well, this is the thing about it, that there's enough research out there, okay? And this is one of the problems that you find when you're dealing with the universities. And I had this problem, I got asked to do some work a long time ago with the university in Aberystwyth in Wales. And you're trying to point out to them, this is a moving target. As things evolved, you're changing stuff and all that. And they were going, that will be outside our parameters of our trial and all this sort of thing. Well, the parameters of your trial, if you just go, nature's the parameter of my trial. What?
That's a huge parameter. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's what we live in.
Yeah.
And this is the thing, is that we go to universities which are completely disconnected from the farming perspective. I heard something the other day which is it made me just nearly cry, but I laughed about the silliness of it. I think Lincoln was going to do a trial on regenerative farming, but they had to slap on a heap of superphosphate to get the P level up before they did, otherwise it'd fail.
That's right.
So they'd already made a decision based on their thinking because it wasn't going to work. They didn't take a soil sample and think, we've got too much aluminium. Well, if we get rid of that, we'll get enough phosphorus, we'll carry on. They're already saying, I am basing all of my research on my past. So we're walking into the future backwards.
You're starting with a flawed principle.
That's right.
You're also, and I mentioned this, I think, in episode 1 of our new series of podcasts, that you're starting off with sick land to do a trial on.
When you don't know what's going on.
Instead of creating a base understanding. It's like the science is missing a control group of, if you were going to compare it against something, it's like you're missing the ability to meet a basic standard of health before you do a trial to see if something different works. If that starting point is already flawed and not working well, then every input you add into it, at least as it occurs to me, is going to have a skewed, distorted outcome from what it would if it had a starting point of health.
Absolutely. And what comes back to me in that regards is, is when something falls over it's like it just sort of collapses because there's no substance to it.
Mm.
What was that bloody great volcano in the States that blew up a few years ago? When you watched it blow up, the side of the wall the whole thing just started to fall down, and then it just blew over.
Mm.
And it reminds me of that. It's like if you've got no foundation, you don't know what you're standing on. In the end, it's just going to go plop, and that's what happens. And we discussed this in some of the stuff last week about, what they're talking about nitrate. And going, well, put it into context. Where do you need it? What's going on? There's no context to how we're doing research.
Yeah, and I just go back a step when you were talking about people doing trials, and was it Aberystwyth?
Yes.
The problem with siloed information, where you have a hyper-focus on something, is you don't have a broad enough understanding of the context of what you're in, which is nature generally. So you're hyper-focused on one thing and wondering why things aren't quite working out right, where a bit of nickel could change a thing rather than having to hyper-focus on the genes.
Yes.
Which, by the way, from what I've learned from you, the genes is only problematic in the latter stage of the biology not getting the nutrition it needs to kick off with as a foundation, right?
Yeah, that's right. It's just environment. It's like if your environment's not right and the minerals and the whole process is not there, it cannot do it. It just can't do what it should be doing for you.
Yeah, yeah. Can we just cover off what's there on the screen, bottom left? Richard Ulrey was a chiropractor who merged.
He still is.
Yeah, right, still is. Who merged the research published in PubMed that you mentioned, with Walter Russell's periodic table in the DNA, and spinal connection in the physical, chemical, and biological connection. Yeah, I just think it deserves that recognition there.
Absolutely. Look, the people that have done this,
it's advanced,
It's immense.
Yeah.
I mean, Walter Russell's ran in the early 1920s, 30s. I mean, I think it's 1926 on the bottom of his chart.
Yeah.
These people have done an immense amount of work. And what's really showing is that if you are willing to look and willing to open up your mind, it is out there, and research can be achieved. And it's amazing. We have all these computers that have search engines and GPT. Even they will bring up some of this stuff and go, yeah, because, somewhere out in the background, you never thought about that before.
That's true. That's true. Well, I'll hit the next slide, shall I?
Yeah.
Mineral deficiency equals limiting factors.
That's absolutely right. Yeah. Now, and that's equally on the other side of things too. Mineral excesses will cause limiting factors.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. Yeah, we did discuss that in the last episode.
Well, I'll bring this up in the
because I mentioned at the time, wouldn't it just not matter? Because if you put too much on the land, you'll end up just using it later, won't you? Simplistic, I know, but then you're able to explain how that squashed production.
Well, absolutely. If you've got an excess of one thing and you actually put too much of it so that the other minerals in proportion to it can't do the job, you've stuffed it up. You've thrown too much of one thing.
Too much of a good thing.
Yeah. And molybdenum's probably one of the greatest scenarios in that regard because, we need 0.5 of a part per million in the plants to actually be healthy.
Right.
And create clover growth and nitrogen nodulation and a whole lot of other bits and pieces. Some of the farmers thought this was brilliant. Let's put on double. And all they got was...
They didn't get double the response.
No, they got treble that irritation and problems because now it created a copper deficiency.
So it wasn't just a case of the diminishing returns, it was actually creating a bad thing.
It did. It creates a chronic problem when it's in excess.
Okay.
And that's why I'm careful with when we start these processes, when you're putting liming or you're alkaline, bringing minerals up, molybdenum comes into availability. So you do it in a herbage test. And so you keep an eye on it. And then there are times, oh, cool, I can go now. You need a little bit because the soil's growing. But these are all in context.
Right.
So
next point on the screen.
What are we looking at?
Deficiency impacts human and animal health.
So when we look at the spinal reflexation and the minerals and the requirements and everything like that, there are some real issues that show up in soil. Absolutely.
Right.
And one of the cracking things that I I'm always chasing the silicon thing around. Okay, so it's number 40 on the genetic sequence. Okay, it regenerates at 9 p.m. It's the lumbar 2 bone at the bottom of the back.
Okay, yeah.
And really important mineral, silicon. But right next to it is its antithesis, aluminium, number 39. Okay, and it regenerates at 8 p.m. But here's an example. Like the aluminium gets into excess and the silicon into deficiency. Lumbar back, how many people got lumbar pains?
Tons of people. It's the main cause of physio or massage therapy client bookings. It's like everyone's got that problem. So what's the insight there?
Well, it's brilliant. It's like, get rid of the aluminium and get the silicon up. It'll go away.
Yeah, right. So stop using aluminium-based deodorants.
Yeah.
Maybe don't drink so much from cans that have aluminium metallic holding.
Be careful of
melting Coke cans.
Medicines that have got aluminium in them.
Yeah.
There's lots of them that are.
You don't often think about aluminium in medicines because whatever your doctor prescribes, you go, cool, I'll just take that. You're not looking at how that's manufactured.
No, that's right. So there's adjuvants and
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, that's vaccines, isn't it?
Yeah.
The adjuvants in vaccines, yeah.
Yeah, so we are being bombarded with aluminium. Now, it's the same in the soils. This is a perfect reflection of what's going on, okay? And this reflects in us in lumbar 2 and our spine. And we get sore backs. It also, the lack of silicon at that point then leads to hip problems. That's just the whole foundation of your hips and everything. And we see that all the time. The structure in an animal is determined by the silicon content. So there we see this again in the herbage test where I've said before, where we're swapping 25 parts per million of silicon to 100 that are against 150 of aluminium, and we're swapping it the other way around.
Okay.
So we go to 25 parts per million of aluminium.
Big swap.
Huge, massive structural change. Okay. And then on the other side of that, on the other side of silicon is phosphorus.
Okay.
Now, this is another huge issue with...
What is phosphorus linked to in the human body?
Well, it's the bone growth, calcium phosphate.
Yeah, right.
Structure again. So like your structure's stuck in, your structure is under attack.
No, I mean in terms of health dysfunction.
Well, there's a whole...
Is giving you back pain.
There's another range of phosphorus minerals that we need in our body, which I will talk about when we get to the tissue salts. There's ferrum phos, nat phos, sodium phosphate,
right?
Potassium phosphate, there's calcium phosphate. There's a range. There's 5 of these phosphorus elements.
Okay.
But if you go acidic and you've got aluminium, you get aluminium phosphate, which is a product called vericide. Your body doesn't need that. And this is what's happening in our soils. And so all of a sudden our structure is broken to pieces. It's like our aluminium's grabbed the phosphorus. There's no silicon to defend it. Your spine's falling apart. You've got hip problems. Your capacity's falling. How many people have got hip operations? There's no silicon. Okay, so this is reflected in the expression of the DNA of the spine. So what's happening at every one of your DNA in the body is a reflection of what's going on that spine.
Okay. That's big.
That's why it's important.
That hip operation one, that'll hit home for a lot of people.
Well, I've been through...
If you don't mind talking about it, this isn't woo-woo science. This is so interesting.
I think it was back in 2002, I was already starting to get a sore hip, quite a sore hip. And I ended up in hospital with appendicitis on Christmas, and which is also a silicon issue too, but never mind. So it was telling me something.
Really
I got stuck in the orthopedic ward because that's the only ward that was open. And there was all these guys and they just had their hip operations done on their knees and that. And I'm sitting there going, I don't want anything to do with this. This is not where I want to be at. This is crazy shit. And this is a part of when I was really researching hard and these books were coming to the fore and I'm starting to go, there's an answer. There's an answer. I've got to go looking for this. I've got to chase this down. And there it was, the reflection of our soils to our cells through the DNA, limiting factors. So the limiting factor in this case was excess aluminium, not enough silicon, phosphorus problems gone. Holy shit, we've created a shitstorm. And in our body, our lumbar and our hips are all our foundation. If they fall over, we fall over because it doesn't hold the legs up. Oh, I can't, my hip problems. Basically, your spine falls apart. Oh dear. So does our soils.
Right. Well, why have we got up on screen limiting factors leads to limiting profits?
Well, if we start looking at the soil again as a Swiss watch, finely tuned, just tick, 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 and you take one cog out and it stops.
And it all falls over.
It falls over. Or you got to rewind it again, and you got to put in your battery in, and you're like, it's not working, what's the time?
Yeah.
You've missed all your appointments. Now you've got no customers. Now you've got no profit. Now you've got a whole lot of problems. It's like all of these things follow.
You make me think of missing your biological appointments too, sort of the key marker points in the season.
Yeah, the reproductive.
Where you expect certain things to have occurred.
That's right.
Yeah.
All of these things impact, and therefore all of the things that go on in the soil that then go through to the health factor, you've missed out on. So you don't produce natural nitrogen in the soil. You don't produce all the minerals that you require for plant growth. You miss out on the massive production. Your animals are sick, so you're paying there. You can't meet a high-priced market because you haven't got a quality product. Because somebody came in with a sledgehammer. Oh, put some more nitrogen on, or put some phosphate on, or put this on.
Are there limiting factors that should be being tested for specifically?
We do, and that's what the soil tests do. It's like, oh, your aluminium's out of bed. Oh, that's the potassium's too high. Oh, these are the excess limiting factors.
You do different kinds of tests, though, than most people. Like, there will be farmers who go, no, I'm already testing that. What are they missing?
Oh, look, there's so much. The aluminiums, the total soil tests. What is your soil made up of? And this is the pun part where I actually really enjoy working.
The pun part?
The pun part, yeah. Well, I actually really enjoy working with geologists. Because they have a fundamental knowledge of how minerals or soils were produced. And these are cool guys that hang out with. You can go, well, what about this here? And you go, blah, 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 blah. Oh, yeah.
This, Ewan, is the opposite of siloing information, actually. When
Absolutely.
You're talking about people like that.
Yeah, no, it's cool. I mean, I had a couple of weeks ago, we were in down in Gore, and the chap there, Peter Gunn, he's just brilliant. Just, well, how does that? And this comes from this and this. Oh, yeah, okay. And then he asking question back because it's not a one-way street. It's like, oh, I didn't know about that. How about this? Oh, and it goes like that. Okay, I get it. And so there's a real awesomeness when you start talking to people about how things are produced. Like he started telling me how the silica came down, and I said, well, that'd have to be out of Central Otago. And he goes, yeah. I said, how do you know that? And because and then he talks about the West Coast, and he talks about Parkahee, and I say, yeah, that's pipe clay in Northland. What? So it's the same stuff. And you can see from the same, it would have come from the same event. It's off the bottom of the sea. It's splattered up there. But these are the things that are not discussed. And we look at our farming magazines, and it's all about sledgehammers and how bad everything is.
Oh, don't you just get sick of the constant, it's about how bad everything is.
Yeah.
But then I suppose if that's your paradigm and you're always fixing things up because things are bad, so I got to buy a new thing to throw on the land to fix the bad thing, then you're never getting out of that state. You're never getting out of first gear into fifth gear because you can't get those foundations in place.
That's exactly what all this podcast is about, Stephen. I mean, and it's a fascinating process, to actually talk about this stuff again at length is like it brings up so many memories of things that I've done and people that I've talked to and books that I've read and going, oh, God, it was a fascinating day when the penny dropped on that.
Yeah.
And some of these things are so ridiculous. Like one mineral in this genetic sequence, it's a +3, it's called yttrium. People don't, what?
Yeah. What's yttrium?
What's yttrium? Well, they use it for the red colouring in TV screens. How's that?
Do they?
Yes. But one of the things that,
What, part of LEDs?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
There's a chap called Horowitz, Israeli researcher, who found out that if he intravenously put yttrium in through the belly button in an animal, the test animal lived 3 times longer.
Wow.
And it's like, what? And it's linked with scandium, which is another +3. Now, the reason was that they found in this genetic sequence that it was a cap on the end of the DNA, which finished the DNA off.
I know a lot of people who love their dogs. They'd like it to live 3 times longer.
Yeah, well, yeah. So anyway, what he realized was that in the genetic sequence, this yttrium hits the end of the protein sequence and shoves the protein through the gut lining, the semi-permeable membrane. But the yttrium doesn't go with it.
Doesn't?
It's only found in the gut.
Huh.
It's not found in the rest of the body.
Huh.
But when there was an adequate yttrium in the gut, the use of trace elements, the wastage in that diminished by something like 50%. And the reproduction of DNA sequences because there was enough yttrium to finish the process off and go, bang, here you go. Now, that's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Okay? And it's like, it makes any genetic modification or crazy behavior about how we're going to fix or we're going to get another 2 or 3%. What?
Totally almost pointless.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so the research has been done, and what's happening is it doesn't get expressed out in the big wide world.
Well, they don't. They don't express things out into the world that can't be patented within the medical industry. And then if the medical industry is, where everything you watch and every bit of news is brought to you by insert name of company and it's medical, you're never going to know about it.
No, but the thing about it with today's world and what we're doing right now, and this is where the farmers have to take control of what they're producing and what they're selling, because then they fit that. When you can actually say, grown under these conditions, under this healthy thing, and this process and that process, and the consumer actually gets it, and it tastes divine, they'll pay.
Yeah.
And then we have a change. So instead of going, oh, you need another shot of this or a bit of a pill of that or whatever else, which is just covering up the symptoms, you're going, I'm eating healthy. Have a nice day.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. I don't have any other follow-ups on that, Ewan. Do you think that's sorted with this one?
Absolutely. I think it's such a cool thing, the DNA. When I start looking at this thing, we can't see it. All these other guys have done all the research on it. That's great. Let's see the impact of it. What I still come back to, the cyanobacteria, the single-cell organism which we were built of, can restrand their DNA to perfection given the right environment.
It's amazing.
So if you look at all of the DNA consequences and cancers and illness and everything else, what are you trying to do? Well, you're trying to actually get back to a healthy DNA strand so it doesn't stuff up and create a bonkers cell which creates cancer. And so I think, well, the first thing, go back to the beginning, start afresh, start clean. Let's go.